Hi, my name is Braxton, and you're listening to the Warm Blanket Podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Warm Blanket Podcast, where we embark on a journey to see what makes us feel good about Star Trek, where the love comes from, and what it means for us. In short, what is our warm blanket? My name is Gary, I'm your host as usual, and I'm very honored to welcome here my special guest today, Braxton, who is one of the kindest and genuinely nice person I happened to come across with recently. He has been a returning guest on the StarfleetBoy podcast where he provides his insights and thoughts on Star Trek, and we are very happy to have him here. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a very warm welcome to Braxton. How are you today?
Hey, TREKKERPRISE! Good afternoon or good evening, since you are in. Are
Scotland.
you in in Scotland? Okay,
Yeah.
I was going to say the UK.
Well, it's
Um,
basically still the UK.
yeah, I am here in Maryland, and so it's afternoon here. So good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
No, I'm very glad to have you on board, and thank you very much for accepting the invitation and being here and sharing your story. And just to sit down and talk about Star Trek. Um, so 2020. Some people, Trekkies, refer to it as a year of hell, but I always think it's a future's end because that's another interesting story on Star Trek. And if I might ask, and sorry to start out with these stupid things, but have anyone called you Captain Braxton?
Yeah, no, not yet. I think that I prefer Commander McNeil. Commander McNeil. I think that's what I prefer.
Because I remember seeing your name, I kept thinking like, okay, Braxton. Braxton is like probably the most recognizable name from Star Trek is Captain Braxton from Relativity.
Oh, you know what? I forgot about Captain Braxton until right now. Well, thanks for the reminder about that.
So, first thing first, how did you get into Star Trek? What was your
Uh,
earliest memory of Star Trek?
mhm. So I first started watching. So my dad did watch TNG. It would come on as reruns.
Hmm.
I'm 40. I'm like, I'm an 80s kid. The reruns of TNG
Hmm.
would be on, and I was familiar with Captain Kirk and Lieutenant Uhura and Mr. Spock. But I didn't really watch. I didn't really start watching and really paying attention to Star Trek
Hmm.
until TNG premiered in the mid '80s. So my dad is a communications systems engineer in the Army. Well, he used to be when he was in the Army at that time in the '80s.
Hmm.
So he, had heard that there was a black engineer who was on Star Trek, which
Hmm.
was, Geordi.
Hmm.
Um, and so he wanted to watch because of that. And my mother wanted to watch TNG for LeVar Burton because
Hmm.
she was really into Roots when it came
Hmm.
on in the 70s.
Hmm.
So um, kind of sort of the interest in LeVar Burton and Jordy brought my parents to the show. And because my parents were watching, I started watching.
Hmm.
Um, but my parents didn't really hang on, you know. I watched all the seasons of TNG.
Hmm.
I then started watching Voyager and Deep Space Nine. My love for Star Trek began with the interest of my parents, and I started watching as a boy,
Hmm.
and I kept on watching. So just to say that um, when people say representation matters,
Hmm.
I think that representation does matter because, like I said, my father, saw Geordie and he
Hmm.
saw like himself and what he was doing. So he
Mm-hmm.
was interested, you know? So it's just fascinating. I wonder if I would have been into Star Trek if my parents hadn't watched it. Hopefully I would have found it anyway. But yeah, I think that, I'm,
Mm-hmm.
a reason why representation matters. People being able to see themselves
Mm-hmm.
represented in media is very important.
Important and powerful as well. I mean, I obviously I cannot speak from the same experience, but when I seen funny enough from TNG as well, when I seen Reginald Barkley, the kind of person who he was, and I just resonated with him as like the kind of person who I was, and
Mhm.
like I know many people who resonated with Reg Barkley as well for the same reason because of how his personality was that I looked at it and I was like, oh my god, that's me. It's
You don't seem awkward at all.
not anymore. Not
Mm,
anymore.
mm, mm, mm,
But
mm.
you would have seen me like 4.5 years ago when I started my YouTube channel. I sat down in front of the camera. I did my very first video. I think it's like 2.5 3 minutes, and it took me a good 2 hours to record
Yeah.
because I have no idea what I'm doing. I was intimidated by the lens, and yeah, I still don't understand why I did that, and but I did it. I think that was a good step to become the person who I am today, and that's comes down to Reg Barkley for funny reasons.
Well, I'm glad that you were brave and that you challenged yourself and you and that you took a step forward.
No, thank you, but it's not about me. This podcast is about you.
No, I mean that's really good because that does relate to me. I have been kicking around like starting a tech focused
Hmm.
YouTube channel, or I think that I would probably be more interested in a tech focused YouTube channel. For
Hmm.
instance, I am very interested in many things Google. I
Hmm.
love Android phones. I also am really into Chromebooks,
Hmm.
and I buy three or four or sometimes five different Android devices per year.
Hmm.
I buy two or three Chromebooks per year as well. It's really interesting how they run similar. They run the same
Hmm.
software, but they differentiate themselves by
Hmm.
hardware. I'm way into those things. I buy those things so much, and you know, um, yeah, I should start my tech channel. And I'd imagine that my first video would probably be really rough, but then as I continue to do
Hmm.
them, you know, I'll find my rhythm and what works. So it was very encouraging to actually hear you say that, like your first video, like, oh my gosh, it took me 2 hours to get through it. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and but funny enough, I mean, it does take a lot of time to even to edit. Now editing is actually more. I mean, was when I was doing it, editing was more actually than just putting it together. But nevertheless, I'm not here to talk about myself. I did that many times in the past 4 years, and probably going to do that as well. So, what would you say? How did the show influence your life? I mean, you got introduced to TNG and then Voyager. Um, yeah, we haven't touched on DS9.
Mhm. So, okay, so hmm, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? So I told you how I'm into mobile tech,
Yes,
phones, um,
Google guy.
Chromebooks, processors and stuff. I wonder if my interest in Star Trek actually made me interested in tech generally.
Hmm.
Um, you know, I maybe possibly. So I think that Star Trek may have influenced me in that way.
Mm-hmm.
hearing all the techno babble. Maybe it just like makes me interested in how things work.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe Star Trek influenced me that way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
So have
and
you
Deep Space Nine.
Have you got influ? Have you got like? I remember when I heard techno bubbles back then. I was eager to get these phrases out from all the episodes, and I think I was like, oh, and even in school, I sometimes I use that when I was talking to my friends. Like, oh yeah, because the genodie sensors on the GND and couplings and the the warp thrusters or something. It's just like throw random words in it to sounds. I'm smart, but actually I was just fascinated by the ideas themselves. That's like, oh, these fancy words, and I didn't understand them. But I never got to the point when I actually wanted to learn more.
Hmm. Hmm.
Which you, as a tech guy, probably you had this that you heard these words, and it's like you maybe got more interest than I did to actually go into deeper to the meanings behind those words.
If I tell my little brother all the time. So like my little brother is 28. So
Mm-hmm.
he graduated from college like 6 years ago. And I remember like 6 years ago, he was like getting ready for his final senior year. And he was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh man, were you good at math? And I was like, oh my gosh, dude, like I am so bad at math, collegiate, advanced level math. Like I just did not get it. It's like a whole different language to me. Like
Mm-hmm.
if I had been good in math, I would have been an engineer. But I just
Mm-hmm.
wasn't good. I wasn't good enough at math.
Same me. No wonder why I became a graphic designer at the end. No,
So you had asked about Deep Space Nine.
yes.
So I have watched Deep Space Nine probably 4 or 5 times. Kira, Odo, my absolute
Mm-hmm.
fave. Um, but I have not been able to watch Deep Space Nine since the pandemic started.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, I shouldn't say that. I think so. Like when the Dominion War starts, like I can't watch Deep Space Nine after
Oh,
that because there's
come.
so much hardship and there's so much death.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like
Oh.
while the pandemic is happening, I can't watch things that bring me down, you
Mm-hmm.
know? I don't like to watch violence right
Mm-hmm.
now, I'm much better like watching like more like jovial, happy, like
Mm-hmm.
meaningless things. Like the Dominion War and all the lives lost like have such an impact on
Mm-hmm.
me. Like as I think about Deep Space Nine, I remember like the last like one of the later episodes and I think that it's Kira who comes in and tells Cisco, gives him like a briefing on how many people have died in the war, and like oh, and it hits so heavy. It's like ooh, like oh, like eight 8 billion people have died from the war, and like Cisco like looks like at this like display, and like I see such despair like on his face. Um, I don't know, Deep Space Nine, the later seasons, like after season 4, like now I can't really go there.
Mm-hmm.
Too punishing.
That's actually it's a really interesting point that you pointed out that um, DS9 is one of the show that is a damn good one. I mean, apart from being a damn good one, it's always relatable. There's so much stories. I mean, with now with the Black Lives Matter movement as well. Some people constantly thought about the Bear riots in the episode Past Tense, which I think it was in season 3 or season 4, and I have not thought about that until you just said it. The actual Dominion War, and then how it can the loss, how it can relate to today, and that's a really interesting point for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Deep Space Nine has such impact, and like I
Mm,
said, just the pandemic. Um, I've had, I think that generally, I have a very sunny, uh, optimistic personality. But since March, you know, I've had a lot of bad days. And I am just not interested in watching things that put me
Mm-hmm.
in a negative headspace, you know? Um, like I was watching I started watching that new Netflix movie with Charlize Theron, and I was a few minutes in, and somebody got shot in the head with a sniper rifle, and I turned it off immediately. I was like, oh, nope, I'm gonna start watching Warrior Nun instead. I just need like something
Mm-hmm.
lighter,
Mm-hmm.
because the world just feels so bad right now.
It does. It certainly does. But
Mhm.
when it comes to Star Trek, what is the show? What are the episodes that you normally go back to, especially these days, these times?
Mhm.
You mentioned that more optimistic and more fun, goofy. What's the one series that is more inspirational in that sense?
Mhm. So my favorite Star Trek show is Voyager. I think that my like some of my favorite characters in the entire Star Trek universe, like absolutely my favorite, my number one is
Mm-hmm.
Seven of Nine. I absolutely love Seven of Nine. I
Mm-hmm.
absolutely love the Doctor from Voyager
Mm-hmm.
as well. Um, I do like B'Elanna Torres a lot. Probably my second or third favorite character in Star Trek
Mm-hmm.
is Kira. I love Kira Nerys. I think that some of her storylines are so powerful. She is
Mm-hmm.
such a kick-ass woman, like kick-ass person,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely love her. Um, but yeah, my favorite Star Trek most definitely is Voyager. I actually have not watched um like I haven't so I've seen reruns of TNG, but I haven't actually like watched it from show to show.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, but yeah, I did watch I said TNG. I meant TOS. TOS. I have watched
Noted.
TNG. hmm
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I also love Counselor Troy. Counselor Troy is also one of my favorites as well. I love Guinan. Um, with the newer stuff, I absolutely loved Discovery season two.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Captain Pike. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait for Brave New Worlds. That is so exciting to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I really, really enjoyed New Spock that was in Discovery as well. Um, yeah, I really liked Odo. I think that Odo is a great character. So many good ones.
That's interesting. You mentioned Strange New World. So, like, because we kind of live in the second golden age of Star Trek, and like so many TV shows coming out and being announced, and Strange New Worlds, Picard season two, Discovery season three coming at some point. Which one of them are the most that it's excite you at the moment? Because I know Lower Decks is probably gonna be out by the time when this podcast episode will be released, but at this moment, which one is like one that you're like, yes, I want this so much.
hmm Um, so now is okay, are you just okay, so I mean, can I say Discovery season three? Is that an option as
Of
well?
course, absolutely.
Okay. So
I'm
really,
not I'm not a hater. Don't worry, I'm not a hater or a gatekeeper or any of those people.
So yeah, so I am super excited to see what happens in season three. Like it seems like it's just going to be absolutely terrible. I mean, they're going to jump like 1,000 years into the future. I feel like the ship is going to be archaic,
Hmm.
and what they experience is probably going to be hell. Oh, I'm so fascinated to see like what's gonna happen.
Hmm.
So I'm excited for that. But I do think that I am the most excited for Brave New Worlds. Oh, is it Brave New Worlds?
Strange New Worlds.
Straight.
Strange
Okay.
New Worlds.
Strange New Worlds. Sorry. So I think that
Oh
I'm most
my.
excited for Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
Hmm.
Like I said, I think that I thought that Captain Pike was the absolute best thing about Discovery season two. Like
I agree.
every scene that Pike was in, I absolutely loved. So yeah, I can't wait to see, what him
Hmm.
and new Spock are going to be up to. I am looking forward to because I feel like some of the promotion and some of the hype around the show is that it's gonna be a more they're gonna take it back to a more optimistic kind of tone.
Hmm.
So I'm looking forward to a Star Trek show that has more of a TNG flavor,
Hmm.
a more Voyager flavor,
Hmm.
where like there's not like vast. I mean, I feel like in TNG, like there was kind of like vast conspiracies within Starfleet, but
Hmm.
like it just wasn't so much overall. It just wasn't so negative in tone as
Hmm.
Picard and Star Trek Discovery. So I'm looking forward to that.
Hmm.
Anson Mount as Pike. Like yeah, like I mean that guy like is just like
He owns the screen.
oh, he does. He's got like this like striking appearance and like that like
Hmm.
that like salt and pepper hair, and he's like and he's like optimistic. He's like a father figure and a teacher, and he's like so encouraging. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I absolutely love that. And then I'm also looking forward to Lower Decks. So I have not watched Rick and Morty.
Hmm.
But overall, I do like adult focused animation, you
Hmm.
know. And I'm totally on board for Lower Decks, Um, like so I watched Picard. I mean not Picard. I watched seasons one and two of Discovery. I bought the DVDs for Discovery, but only season two. I didn't actually think
Hmm.
that season one was that good, but I actually canceled my CBS All Access. I watched the first episode of Picard, and I saw Dodge jump like 70 feet and attack those dudes on the stairs. And I was like, you know what? Like, dude, I am not going to watch this. So I actually have not watched season one of Picard,
Oh,
but
really?
when but when I come back to CBS All Access for Lower Decks, I am gonna watch Picard,
Hmm.
you know. But yeah, dude, Lower Decks is definitely gonna bring me back to CBS All Access.
That's interesting. I think I have to say, and I think anyone who listened to any of the podcasts that I did or know me from my writing shenanigans, they know that Discovery and Picard wasn't as close to my heart as the other shows. I still like them and I still watch them and I still looking forward to what's coming, but never been for some reason, and they never really touched my inner soul as much as the like TNG or DS9 or Voyager. Voyager is my all-time favorite. Among all of the others, I'm a Voyager boy too. um, but what do you think? What do you think changed from TNG going into Picard? That not just regardless of Dash jumping 70 feet in buildings to buildings and killing dudes and everything.
So, well, I think that the nature of television has simply changed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there is serialized storytelling basically in every Sorry about that. My phone rang. Oh,
Okay.
sorry. I should have put it in do not disturb mode. I
Oh no,
apologize.
that's fine. That's fine.
Um, serialized storytelling is one thing. Like in TNG, um, and well, Voyager was kind of serialized, but then also it was kind of like they would just do a reset. It just kind of depended a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, but so so that's one thing is like serialized TV. Um, and another thing is just like it's just like the I don't know. Like I think that one thing that I felt about Discovery is that Discovery, especially season one, it felt too like 2018. Like it felt too
Hmm.
current. It's like, you know what? If this is supposed to be, 300 or 400 years from now, I think that we hopefully should have like beaten back like some of these problems. Like I
Hmm.
hope that we aren't dealing with like the same problems that we have right now in
Hmm.
300 or 400 years. So just because of that, to me it means that the tone is like less optimistic.
Hmm.
Here it is, we're 300 years in the future, but yet we haven't done anything. We haven't progressed anywhere, you know? But I think that TNG and Voyager are different than
Hmm.
that.
No, that's a very interesting point, and especially with Discovery because there's like a significant time between TNG. I mean, with Discovery and the original series. Like, you're not talking about Captain Pike, but Captain Kirk's Enterprise. Like, there's like 20 or 10 or 20 years or something. It's really close to the TOS era, and even in the TOS era, they didn't have to deal with that much. Um, Sorry, my French, crap that they had to deal with in Discovery in a sense. So it's a really interesting point as well.
Hmm.
So I wonder, like, all of these episodes, all of these characters, and I know we touched on Geordi, we touched on Seven of Nine. If you could swap with any of them for one day, who would you go for and why?
Mm, mm, mm.
Who would you?
I, gosh, I mean, can I choose someone non-human? If I could,
Of course.
if I could be anyone in the shows in Starfleet, I think that I would either want to be the Doctor or I would want to be Data. I think that those characters are so fascinating. I think that um yeah, I think yeah, I absolutely love the Doctor and Data. One of the things that I hate about Voyager is the relationship between Chakotay and Seven of Nine. I think that relationship made Seven of Nine so uninteresting.
Hmm.
I absolutely loved that episode where the Doctor like was wanting to tell Seven of Nine that he was in love with her, but like
Someone
he
to watch over me?
I don't remember the episode or the episode name, I should say, but he didn't. He held that back, and it would have been so fascinating to have
Hmm.
Seven of Nine and the Doctor in a relationship. These two individuals
Hmm.
searching for their humanity. Like that would have been so fascinating. But instead, it was just this really boring storyline with her and Chakotay. And, you know, I don't know.
Maybe,
I
maybe,
didn't.
maybe that's one of the reasons that Seven ended off with Raffi at the end. It's like, you know what? I ain't want any Chakotay anymore.
Oh, thinking about Chakotay, I was watching the like the gosh, what is it? What do they call it? Like It's like a YouTube channel, Ciroc Lofton and
Oh, the
a
seventh rule, the
the
seventh rule
seventh
podcast.
rule. Yeah. So I watched a bunch of their virtual panels
Mm-hmm.
over the weekend and this
Mm-hmm.
early part of the week. And yesterday they had on Robert Beltran, who played Chakotay.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so interesting, dude. Like, dude, so Robert Beltran had no idea that CBS All Access existed. He had no idea that Picard had been shot and had been shown on CBS All Access. I was like, dude, like, where have you been? How do you have no idea that CBS All Access exists? How do you have no idea that that a Picard show has been made? I just thought that was very interesting. I
But
was
yeah,
like, dude, like,
it
what is
it
he live
is.
and what did he do?
It is interesting because some of the actors are not really engaging. I mean, with majority of the TNG cast are always on social media. Like you can see tweets from Brent Spiner, bless him, Marina Sirtis, or
LeVar Burton is
LeVar
on.
Burton is a very big advocate as well. I think Michael Dorn is a bit quiet. He's not as, at least I didn't find him so outgoing and chatty, but like Gates McFadden and Robert
Marina
Picardo.
Sirtis is very active.
Oh yeah, she is very active, and I think most of the Voyager staff crew as well, like Garrett Wong and Robbie McNeil. Now he has more time to engage with people
Tim
on
Russ
social.
Tim Russ is always saying like crazy things about Donald Trump. Dude, like
Yeah,
I feel like I feel like 95% of his tweets is just him going in on Donald Trump. Like, it's like funny, but not funny.
yeah, I kind of have the same feeling about him. I love him and what he did with Tuvok, but yeah, sometimes it's a bit too much. But again, I'm he's an interesting chap for sure. But the point what you pointed out actually, yeah, with Robert Beltran himself, that some of the actors they're not present within the Star Trek community anymore, or they don't really pay attention because I have a feeling that they probably don't want themselves to be categorized into just one thing that they done, and some
Mm.
of them probably, and I'm probably not right with this, but sometimes I do have the feeling that maybe for some reason they are not entirely happy that they're being associated with a certain character
Mhm.
from a show. Like Robert Bertrand, I know he wasn't really an outgoing person about like him being Chakotay. I'm not sure if because of the character or for his own experience, so he was just not really into what he was doing, which is, I don't know. I always loved Chakotay in Voyager. I think he was a fantastic character, but it's like Avery Brooks is totally out of the picture. Jolene Blalock from Enterprise is totally self-isolated. The people,
Mhm.
some of the actors are self-isolated themselves from the community and from Star Trek.
But the thing is, art is in art many times is very much a one hit wonder kind
Hmm.
of thing, whether it's like, you know, visual art or audio art. There are so many musicians who are known for just one song. There are so many actors who are just known for one movie role or one show. Like success in the arts is very much like being struck by lightning. Like
Hmm.
you have to be really, really lucky, or I mean, well, the lightning strike, unfortunate to be struck by lightning. So the thing is, like, they are
Figuratively
like,
speaking.
percentage wise, there are very few actors who have a career that spans 30 or 40 years and they have
Mm.
multiple hit shows and movies. There are very few musicians whose career and hits span 30 or 40 years and they have multiple hits. Like with the arts, I think that, you know, sometimes, you just get lucky. There's a billion actors in LA and they choose you and you're lucky and like you get that role and that's what you're known for and you know what and you may not have another acting job ever
Mm.
like look at the young lady who played Karen Page on the Netflix show Daredevil and also she was in the Punisher show as well. that actress, I can't think of what her name is, but she is such she's a beautiful actress. She is a talented actress. Like there were scene like that. There's a particular scene in The Defenders
Mm-hmm.
where like Matt Murdock doesn't walk in the room after the other heroes, like
Mm-hmm.
after like things have gone to hell, and she's like focusing on the doorway, and then she turns and like because she can't bear to look. And dude, and like every time I watch that scene, like I tear up. Like she totally sold it. Like that
Mm-hmm.
woman is such a phenomenal actress. And then I read an article where someone had interviewed her like pre-pandemic, and she was like, "Oh yeah, like I have not had an acting job since my roles in Defenders and Daredevil." And I was like, "That is amazing because not only are you talented and beautiful, you're a kick-ass actress." So I don't know. Sometimes I feel like the arts is very much catching lightning in a bottle, and people should not have people should be proud, to have like you know this like to have their one starring role, even if it is just one. You're lucky.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I yeah, and especially with Star Trek, that's once you're in Star Trek, you're immortal. like like okay, like not let's not go so far, but like Ricardo Montalban.
Hmm.
He only been in one episode and one movie.
Hmm.
He melted together with Khan.
Hmm.
He's Khan. He's like even though you've seen him in Spy Kids or any other movies that he did, which bless him, I don't know that much of him in terms of movies, but if that was the one thing that he was like, okay, yeah, I was Khan in that movie, even though I had a plastic chest, but I was Khan.
Hmm. Hmm.
I think that's the thing. Like some people are really proud, even if they had just one single line in one movie or one series and just a guest starred in something, and but that still, yeah, success is not about quantity, is it?
No, it's not, um what what like has anybody in the Star Trek universe like experienced like a lot, like who's the most famous person in the Star Trek shows? Is it LeVar Burton?
Well, I think he definitely one of them. I think William Shatner is probably another one who like been in multiple things, not just in
Mhm.
Star Trek, but obviously he melded together with Captain Kirk as well. Like
And he was in
he,
TJ Hooker,
he
right?
yeah,
Mhm.
and he's unexplained at the moment, and he did some other like miscongeniality.
Hmm. Hmm.
So a fun little cameo. He even did an episode of Sequest, which I didn't know just later. I found out that hey, like Captain Kirk was in Sequest as well with a mustache,
Hmm.
playing a Russian.
Hmm.
Very un Shatner, but
Yeah, unfortunately,
but
like
yeah,
there's not
Patrick Stewart as well. He was in multiple movies.
oh
Robert Picardo, bless him,
oh
he was in Stargate. Like
now that's a huge omission. How did I not think of Patrick Stewart like first? Like, yeah, I mean
and then you're
he's
you're
so
you're not a
famous.
TNG boy. Like
How did I not think of him first? Like, I absolutely love him as Professor Xavier. Amazing.
yeah, no, he is one of a kind, of course.
Mm.
But talking about William Shatner, I think we reached a point in this little chat of ours that we have a game in this show, and you're probably familiar with this. Is the Do Your Chat, which is the Captain Kirk impression game. How confident are you feel to show your inner Captain Kirk?
um, you know, gosh, I just haven't watched very much TOS.
Oh my!
Um, I mean,
So
I
do
know,
your best, Captain Picard. Then.
I know that he pauses and says things for dramatic effects. That's the best I can do. Sorry.
Good.
Sorry.
No, no, it's good. It's all just for fun. I mean, if it made you smile and laugh, that or you already achieved something with this.
I'm incapable of experiencing embarrassment.
Oh, that was a very spark, was it?
Actually, I meant for it to sound kind of
I,
7 of 9.
oh,
Or
I see.
like I feel like something like gosh, like what I feel like something happened and she was like, "Oh, I'm capable of experiencing embarrassment." Like somebody was like, "Oh, 7 of 9, like you should be embarrassed." And she was like, "Oh, like I'm incapable of experiencing shame."
Gosh. So let's say you're out and about. You do your shopping, or you're just at work, and someone shouts from the very far Star Trek, and you like, what is the first thing that comes to your mind when someone from the far shouts Star Trek?
Mm, mm. Um, mm. You know, that has actually never happened. I can't think of when. But so okay, I'm gonna turn it around. Okay,
Okay.
so
Oh
the
boy.
so my ringtones on my phone is the Star Trek communicator, you know, and I have been out in public and I've got a notification on my phone and it's like the Star Trek door
Mhm.
chirp, you know, and someone's like, oh wow, what's your favorite series? You know? And I'm like, oh yeah, Voyager. And they're like, oh yeah, mine's TNG, you know? So like the inverse has happened, you know? Um, so yeah, or I've been out and like taken a call and
Mhm.
and my ringtone is also Star Trek, and people are like, oh, oh, I wonder like what like like, oh, that sounds familiar. What is that? I'm like, oh yeah, that's Star Trek, you know? Hmm. Um, yeah.
You know, the funny thing is, I had something similar, but at work. So I work in a call center at the moment, and I'll take calls. And there was a couple from the U.S. phoned up, and I kept hearing the TOS communicator sound effect in the background, and I was about twice during the conversation, and I asked him, like, is that a communicator from Star Trek? And it's like, yes. How did you hear it? It's like, well, it was quite loud. And it's like, are you a Trekkie? And we like for a brief second we started talking about Star Trek. It was absolutely hilarious. And even the person who called up, and he didn't say like, oh, like thank you, and like God bless you, something. It's like, live long and prosper. He actually signed off with live long and prosper. It's like, and I had to. I'm not sure if anyone listened to it because quality control, but it was fun. I mean, like that made my day for sure.
Another funny thing. So I started taking my cats to a different vet last
Mhm.
year. So my cats' names are Esri and Ahsoka. And so
Esri.
I took them to the vet, and the lady was like, she was like, "Oh, those are such beautiful names. Are they African?" And I was like, "Oh no, they're Star Trek and Star Wars."
I thought you were gonna say that. Like, no, not one of them is from Trill. The other one is from another planet.
My boy cat, whose name is Esri.
Mhm.
So I named him Esri because he is very shy. He is a scaredy cat, and you know how like Esri Dax, like she was so like timid and afraid,
Mhm.
like when she first like came like aboard DS9, but later she like found like her talent and her
Mhm.
strength. So like my boy cat, like he was so afraid like earlier in his life, and he still is. He's still like a very timid,
Mhm.
shy cat. But in a way, he's like my best cat. He's so good.
Mhm.
And Ahsoka, like I named her that because like I don't know, she's like always into things, and she's like very bold, and like I don't know. I love Ahsoka Tano from Star Wars,
Hmm.
um, um, Clone Wars.
Hmm.
So I thought that name was fitting for her.
Have you ever met any of these people who you've seen on TV in from Star Trek? Any of your heroes?
No, no, unfortunately not.
Is there anyone who you would like? You would do anything to meet? Not anything, but
You
like literally. But like, don't
know.
take this in the wrong way.
you know, um, there are so many people who I would love to meet from the Star Trek universe. Like I would love to meet Patrick Stewart. I would love to meet Jerry Ryan. I would love to meet Robert Picardo. Um, I would love to meet Marina Sirtis. Um, oh my gosh, I would love to meet Sonequa Martin Green. Oh. Do you know who the person I think that I would most want to meet in new Star Trek? Uh, um, Mary Chieffo. I think that Mary Chieffo is such a nice young lady. I follow her on Twitter and like I see like her footage at the cons, and she seems like such a fantastic person.
She does
Hmm.
really feel so energetic and there and like give 110% of her engagement as well. It's just a very fantastic. I haven't met her in person either, but oh, well, one day.
Oh my gosh, I I totally hope that somewhere like they like someone who is creating in the new Star Trek universe can find a place for Chancellor Laurel,
Hmm.
because I am such a big fan of Mary Chieffo. Like she just seems like absolutely fantastic young lady, and I also really
Hmm.
enjoy her Chancellor Laurel. So I think that Mary Chieffo is the person who I would most want to meet in the Star Trek universe
Hmm.
as an actor.
And who knows? Maybe in Discovery season 3, we're gonna see her offspring, or great granddaughter, Emperor Lorelis or something. I don't know.
Uh,
Played by Mary. That would be fun. That would be really fun.
her like, gosh, I don't even know how many greats that would be. A thousand years? Like,
Phew, that's a lot. I mean, the Klingons are usually how long they live? They live a few hundred years as well.
are Klingons long lived? I mean, I feel like Klingons like are so like warlike and stuff. Like they like, oh, today's a good day to die. Dude, I feel like Klingons don't live a real long life. I feel like Klingons like live into like I mean, we've seen like some old gray-haired Klingons, but like they are like the
They were
lucky ones.
diplomats. They were diplomats.
Right. Like I feel like Klingons like live into their 40s and that's it. Dude, like
That's that.
dude, you fighting people with bat lefts, dude. You can't live like 200 years like doing stuff like that.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think Kang was the one from the DS9 episode. I think the early, I think season 4 or season 5, when Kang and the old Klingon gang came back from the original series, and they were like,
Mm.
"Oh, fight the albino." Um, I think they were around for at least a good 100 and something years.
Oh, really? Okay. I didn't realize that Klingons lived. Like I knew that Balkans
Waltons do,
lived very
and
long
Romulans as
lives.
well. Hmm.
Yeah. Because they're kind of like the same thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think they were probably the same, but this whole reunification in the TNG era, and then some backstory in Enterprise as well that comes. That's a very before we go into the ultimate question. What do you think about Enterprise? Have you watched Enterprise?
Trash, trash.
Oh boy,
Okay. Okay.
it's been
Okay.
a
So I
long
should.
road.
It's been a long time getting from there to here. Oh, okay. So
That
I
wasn't
should
as
tell you
terrible then.
that. So so a reason why I love Vulcans
Hmm.
is because so I'm a I'm a very conservative person.
Mm-hmm.
A Like one of my closest friends a couple years ago, he said, you know what, Braxton, you hold a lot back, and I didn't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of took that and processed it. I identify with Vulcans because I am a person who holds a lot back. I don't necessarily tell you uh, what I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so I identify with Vulcans. Like Vulcans, like they have the same feelings that like every other like individual or person does,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't like react to everything. You don't see everything that they are feeling and experiencing
Mm-hmm.
on their face. So like I identify with Vulcans for that because I try not to let things show all the time. You
Mm-hmm.
know, um. So yeah, so yes, I really like Vulcans. What question did you just ask? Ah,
So like
damn.
I think
Shit, I
we,
got off
we
on a tangent.
and that's fun. I mean, there's no rules in this podcast. But yeah, we talked about Enterprise and how you think
Oh,
it's a
trash,
trash
trash.
one.
Okay, okay.
But then
So here's
what if we started talking about the Balkans then at the end?
okay. So here's okay. So right, right. So I said trash. Then I started talking about Vulcans. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So so yes, I'm a conservative person, dude. So I don't know, like all the mid drafts and like T'Pol and Yoshi were like unnecessarily naked. You know, um, like I don't know, like when I say trash, like that's what I mean. They had like
Mm-hmm.
unnecessary like undress, unnecessary kind of like female nudity, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Um like I don't know, like it was like Star Trek, but then it was
Mm-hmm.
mixed in with like UPN network trash.
Oh, I
Like I feel
see.
like they were trying to sell sex and you know that really really stuck out to me in some
Mm-hmm.
episodes. Um I really, really like Scott Bakula. I thought that Scott Bakula was really good. Um, I really liked is his name Malcolm? Like
Malcolm
the
Reed, yeah.
I really
Dominic Keating. Mm.
I liked him. I thought that the guy who played Merriweather, it was a Mayweather or Merriweather?
Mayweather.
Mayweather, I
Mm-hmm.
thought that he was okay. I thought sometimes the acting was a little wooden. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I liked Yoshi. I liked Jolene Blaylock as T'Pol. I thought T'Pol was the best character besides Captain Archer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it was just like the trashy stuff mixed in with the Star Trek
Mm-hmm.
that it really really turned me off on the show. Like
Mm-hmm.
I watched seasons 1 and 2
Mm-hmm.
and then I stopped. Um and I did pick it up a little bit during the last season and like that last show where they like Command or Counselor Troy and Riker like stepped out of the holographic
But that's
simulation.
like the last episode.
hmm And I was like, what? Are they saying that like none of this actually happened
Oh yeah,
or no?
Go Dallas on Enterprise.
Yeah, like that was really weird. So you know what?
Mm-hmm.
I would say no. I did not like Star Trek Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
I liked some of the actors. I
Mm-hmm.
think that the actors did try to do a good job. I think that some of the writing was I don't know, just like I I think that they were trying to sell sex in a way like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when I think of that, like I think of like the T'Pol, like when she goes in heat. What is the Vulcan? What do they call it?
Trip.
No,
Oh, the
like
meditation techniques is in.
no, like the Vulcan thing where
On fire.
where they have to have when the pawn far. Oh my gosh, that was trash, trash. Like oh my gosh, like you know. I feel like there was like some episodes where I feel like people were like
Oh.
rubbing each other down in oils and stuff. Oh my gosh, dude, I absolutely cannot stand Enterprise. That is the only, beside that and TOS, and
Hmm.
now Picard is the only Star Trek shows that I have no love at all for. Um, I think that Scott Bakula is fantastic, but I couldn't stomach watching that show again.
Hmm.
I thought it was really bad.
And then that's perfectly fine. I mean, everyone has a set of what likes about Star Trek and what not, and it doesn't really matter, to be honest, because at the end of the day, whether you like TNG, DS9, or Voyager, or all of the movies, or just one movie, it's like I still have difficulties watching what um, Into Darkness, and the movie has some good qualities though, but it's not my movie.
Hmm.
Discovery is not necessarily my Star Trek. I still watch it, but it's not as close as watching Fast and Live Fast and Prosper from Voyager. Like you can or the Magnificent Ferengi from DS9, or from watching the Fistful of Data from the Next Generation. Like these episodes are like always going back to, and from these series as well, I'm going back to, and I go back to Enterprise because I do love it too. Not necessarily,
Hold on, give me okay. Tell me some good episodes, and I'm gonna take them down.
Oh
Uh,
boy, from what? From
okay,
generally,
so
from episode,
like
any of the
Enterprise,
series?
like what no Enterprise, like what sticks out in your mind in Enterprise, and I'm gonna avoid the trash, and I'm just gonna watch the episodes that you tell me about.
Okay, so okay, let me have a look. Because I do have to think, because it's been a while. Dear Doctor is a good
Oh
episode.
dear.
Dear
Okay.
Doctor is from season one. That's a good episode. I
Ooh,
think
Doctor Flox. Ooh, Doctor Flox
Doctor
was
Flux is good,
very
and
interesting.
that's a Doctor Flux episode. It's a really really good one. What is the other one? I think personally I loved Acquisition. That's a Ferengi episode. I found it really good. If you don't really like the robbing each other with other things, then probably 2 days and 2 nights is not something that I would recommend. If you like Vulcans, the Andorian incident is a fantastic episode, in my opinion, from season one. But again, season two has Carbon Creek is a good kind of time travel episode. Um, but I love Future Tense. It's a bit of a Doctor Who. I'm not sure if you watch Doctor Who, but that's a fantastic episode too. I really enjoy that. Communicator is a good episode too.
Okay.
There's a lot of good episodes. Regeneration is a good episode too. From season two.
Dude, I'm gonna
Season
have to watch like the whole episode. I mean, the whole show, dude. Regeneration. Okay.
Regeneration is a good one. Like, let me
Ooh,
think.
is that the Borg? That's the Borg one
That's
where
the
they
Borg
find them in the
episode. Yeah,
snow.
yeah. That's the Borg
I've
episode.
I've seen that one. Yeah.
That's a good one. Night in Sick Bay is a fantastic story. I really enjoyed watching that. I remember. Canemar is an interesting sort of what's the Nick Cage movie when they're in the plane and everyone is like a fugitive, or like they traveling them in the plane, and
Mm.
Steve Buscemi is in the movie too.
Dude,
It's a very,
is that Face Off? Him and John Travolta, or is it something
no,
else?
no, it's a different one. Con Air, I think Con
Ooh,
Air. That that's like some gives us the same idea of the movie, the episode. Season three is basically just a whole big story arc, what is in the war, which has its own stories, but it's basically just an ongoing
mm,
stuff. And season four obviously had some good stories, but some of these stories are basically a 3-4 episodes overall. But yeah,
mm.
there's the first two season has some really good episodes that I would anytime I would recommend to anyone to rewatch. And season three is more like Zindi War, of course, and season four is when it started to get really good, and then they decided to stop the whole thing. So
Dude, it sounds
I'm selling
Enterprise
Enterprise to you.
is your second favorite Trek behind Voyager.
I wouldn't go that far. Like, okay, so my ratings is, and actually I tweeted it out a couple of months ago, that my ratings is first comes with TOS, TAS, TNG, DS9, Voyager, Enterprise. That's like the first, and then in second place comes Discovery and Picard. At least
Hmm,
that's how my rank works.
Oh wow, so TOS is your favorite?
No,
Is
no,
your
no,
number one?
no, no. From TOS, TAS, and TNG, DS9, Voyager, Enterprise. They're all in the same category. That I have them. I love them equally, with their flaws and with their goofiness and with their profanity at some point as well. But I love them equally, even though there's some less favorite episode, there's some absolute favorite episode, but I love them equally. Picard and Discoveries is probably for me is the same as some other people, like from the TOS and TNG generation didn't really like Enterprise or Voyager that much, or even the TOS generation didn't like TNG at the beginning. I'm
Hmm.
kind of at the same level at the moment with Picard and Discovery.
When there are I have seen multiple people say
Hmm.
that they do not like Voyager, but yet they like Star Trek. And you know what? I just find that crazy. Voyager is the best Star Trek to me. I absolutely love Janeway. I love Seven of Nine, like Velana Torres, Tuvok, the Doctor. Like, oh my gosh, Voyager is such a good Star Trek show. Like, there's like Borg in there, species what's eight four
Eight four
seven
seven two.
two. Like, oh my gosh, dude. Like, I love Voyager. You know,
You know what? The
um,
funny thing is about Voyager. I think that's out of the older series. That's what it's most. I think that's how I think. But obviously, everyone is entitled to an opinion, and no opinion is necessarily bad or better than the other. But for me, Voyager basically what the original series was, going out there and exploring new things and new civilizations every single episode,
mhm.
whether it's within the ship itself and then exploring a different mindset, or whether going to a different planet or meeting with a different race, getting into different circumstances. Because in the original series you don't really see like big armadas coming together like in DS9, like always something going on, or the next generation Enterprise is always in Federation space, going from planet B to planet C to planet D, and then the circling around in the Alpha Quadrant. Voyager was basically out in the middle of nowhere. Like the Enterprise in the original series was just out in the unknown, and the exploring the uncharted territories in the galaxy. So it's for me, it's more closer to the heart of what Star Trek the original series was
Mhm.
than than any other show.
Hmm. Okay, I'm totally with it. That reminds me of some of those beautiful like ship shots in Deep Space Nine as like
Hmm.
the Federation and Dominion were preparing for battle, dude. Like, oh
Hmm.
man, like sometimes like when I watch those, dude, I would just like pause it just to like look and like count. Like some of those shots were absolutely amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree, and yeah, that definitely sold and brought in more people as well, because it's like, oh, finally some space battles in here, not just sitting in a station and talking about the Kirshara or anything. Just mixing episodes now. So we touched on quite a lot. We talked about multiple aspects of the shows, multiple shows, and I think it's fair to ask, and this is where the whole idea of this podcast comes basically to a conclusion and together. Um, what is your warm blanket when you think about Star Trek?
Hmm. So like so I watch I watch Discovery season two like in my waking hours.
Hmm.
But generally like when I am so generally so the way I watch Star Trek is that I go from show to show watching them completely. I rotate
Hmm.
Voyager, DS9 up to season 4 just lately,
Hmm.
um, TNG, and I just like kind of rotate those shows. So I always, you know, start watching Star Trek at about 10 o'clock when I get in bed.
Hmm.
And I generally watch one episode completely and then I fall asleep like when the next episode like is playing at some time. I'm a person who needs to sleep with some sound. And the thing that I really like about Star Trek is that like, I can lie down and I can hear it, and I don't need to be watching it because I have seen it so many times that I can just visualize the action
Hmm.
that's happening on the screen. So like warm blanket to me means comforting. And Star Trek does that for me, Yeah, I fall asleep basically, you know, every night watching Star Trek, hearing the episodes in my ears and visualizing the action that's on the screen. So yeah, in that respect, Star Trek is my warm blanket.
Literally falling asleep into dream world, dreaming about a new world, a better
Yeah,
tomorrow.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's awesome. Well, Braxton, it was lovely to have you on the show, and I really enjoyed our chat pre and obviously during this recording. And it was I'm really glad that you decided to came aboard and we managed to talk about Star Trek. And if people want to get to know you better, where they can find you, where they can reach out to you,
So they can
how they
reach
can.
Well, they can reach out to me on Twitter. My handle is oh, I should know my handle, but I actually don't. Uh, so my handle
Should I help
is
you out, really?
so my handle is Leviathan 026. Now, so something that I should okay, so let me say thank
Okay.
you. This has been absolutely wonderful and fantastic. I have really, really enjoyed myself. But yeah, they could find me at my handle, Leviathan 026. They can also catch me on 4 or 5 episodes of Starfleet Boy. Something that I wanted to say was that Starfleet Boy is really um, Starfleet Boy is awesome. Starfleet Boy, through Starfleet Boy, I have met so many great people in the Trek community. Like for instance, not to talk too long, but
That's
so
fine. Just take
you
your
know,
time.
like I had watched the 80s and 90s shows.
Hmm.
I had watched Enterprise in the early 2000s. Um, but like in the lead up to Discovery, like I started getting active on Twitter because of the lead up to Discovery. And
Hmm.
I started watching um but like between like the early 2000s and like maybe like 2017, like
Hmm.
I wasn't involved in the Star Trek community at all. And
Hmm.
then like I started hearing about Discovery, so I started seeking information out like on Twitter and stuff. And then I started watching Starfleet Boys YouTube channel. And then after that, like I started watching Trek on the Tube, and like I started watching like Steve Shives, and I started watching you, and I started watching like Jesse Gender, and like um uh and other people that I'm forgetting right
Hmm.
now. But just to say that, you know, new Star Trek is really important, because new Star Trek brought me into the community. If not for Discovery, I might not be here talking to you now. You know, um, I might not have, started interacting with Starfleet Boy on Twitter if Discovery hadn't happened. So, like,
Hmm.
new Star Trek is so important. It makes new fans. It brings people into the community. Like when I started like getting involved with Star Trek people on Twitter, like a whole world was open up to me. Like I
Mhm.
had no idea there was like Star Trek cruises and like conventions and stuff, you know. Like I went to I've been going to my local Star Trek convention up in
Mhm.
Hunt Valley, Maryland. I haven't been to the one in Las Vegas, but I've went up to the one that's in North Baltimore.
Mhm.
Um, so just to say, like, new Star Trek is so important because it brings people in. But yeah, I had to give Starfleet Boy a shout out because, like, he's awesome and he has really exposed me to really, really, really wonderful people. Um, and so yeah, I just wanted to say that.
No, and I totally agree with you. Starfleet does deserve a shout out in many ways. I mean, even in my journey, I can thank him a lot because he befriended me from the very beginning, and I'm yeah, he's my half brother.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
can proudly say he's my half brother.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But just as
He
track on the
has
tube is the same way. You'll be all brothers, all three of us.
mhm. Dude, brothers in track. I love it.
Brothers on the tube. Sean, if you're listening, this is for you, brothers on the tube. Well, Braxton, again, it was very amazing to have you on. Thank you very much for sharing your story and talking track. It was absolutely fantastic. And for all of my listeners as well, thank you very much for tuning in for another episode of the Warm Blanket Podcast. And until next time, live long and prosper. And that was it for this episode. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and rest assured, new episodes will be coming out every week where we sit down with a Trekkie to find out what makes us feel good about Star Trek and to discover what is our warm blanket made of. If you really enjoy listening to this podcast, please leave a review on your favorite podcasting app. It would really mean a lot to me. To find out more about this audio adventure, please visit TREKKERPRISE.com/podcast, where you can also listen to the previous episodes. Thank you again for listening to yet another episode of the Warm Blanket Podcast, and I'll see you in the next episode. Live long and prosper.